Welcome to Stormwatch by Grey Noise Intelligence. Each week, we drop the latest info on what's happening at Grey Noise, Census, and Vulncheck, take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, toss out some expert opinions, and drop the occasional conspiracy theory. Today, we celebrate CVE's 25th birthday and take a look at its evolution over the quarter century, and also see what challenges and opportunities lie ahead for the program. We then take a look at the what shall I say, poop show that is the Transport for London cyber attack, and discuss the impact the breach had and the breach response had on the folks who depend on the system for their daily travels. Oddly enough, for a change, we cover some good news. This time from the White House, where they've announced a new partnership with security researchers to help improve the sorry state of cyber in both the public and private sectors, although mostly in the public sector. And of course, we cover the usual roundup of news from Census, Voncheck, and Grey Noise, plus take a look at what's happening in Kevland if we have time. Before we get started, though, Glenn, I just wanted to say, like in the club, we all fam.
That's right.
Darn it, almost got you.
No, it's a great show.
I was informed that would get you, but she was apparently wrong. I get all of my TikTok social media counseling from my daughter. So
I mean, I respect it. I bet Himage knows what that's from. The OG.
Bra City.
Yeah, that's a good show.
It was apparently just re-upped on TikTok by a couple people, so that's the thing on there. Wait,
yeah,
but we
John
are
Carpenter brought it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was actually just re-upped though on the 24th. So there we go. Anyway, that's probably how she knows about it. We're not here to talk about TikTok. We're not here to talk about memes. We are here to talk about you could extensively talk about memes for literal hours. I've been there, sadly. But today we're talking about Halloween. I did not get the memo that I just haven't had. I don't even worry about why I'm not wearing a costume.
You don't have a calendar?
You know how good I am with calendars, so would it matter even? But we're here to talk about Halloween, and you know what? I actually have some spooky music. I know that Overwatch has great spooky music as well, but I have some proper spooky music.
Speaking of spooky, I only see 3 people.
This is true. We are down in Emily, and we did not know enough in time to get anybody else to fill in or interview or anything like that.
I thought so with Emily.
It would have been, and it's way too early to ask Kimber to join this early
without
advance notice. Yeah, I'm not about to do that. So, so Glenn, as a child, I mean, this is assuming you're
currently
I had to grown up right now. As a child, what was your favorite Halloween treat? And then also as, I guess, an adult, what is your favorite Halloween treat now?
I don't remember what they were called as a kid, but do you remember they were shaped like a soda bottle?
Yes. And they had
like
a little
bit,
and they had a tiny little bit of just pure sugar liquid in it.
Yeah. As a kid, I loved those. I felt like they were hard to get. I think they're like old time candy. I don't know, but
can you eat the bottle too?
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
I did. I don't know. I guess. No microplastics in that, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know what it is.
I thought it was
wax candy. Yeah, wax candy. Like that's almost as bad as candy corn. But anyway,
you tear the top off and then drink the sugar, and then you just chew on the other for probably 2 hours.
Yeah, I do remember that. And
that was my thing as a kid.
As an adult,
I just like Snicker bars, Snicker, whatever.
You don't like the Grey Noise top candy pick?
No, that's, oh my gosh. We did our annual thing. I don't know if folks hadn't seen it on socials, but at least we had a different winner this year. The last 2 years, it's been Twix, I think. This year it was Milky Way, which was a fraudulent winner because I don't think half the companies even had a Milky Way, but somehow it won. But then I did go try one the last weekend, and I didn't hate it. So I guess it's worthy of a contender.
Fair.
Oh,
yeah, that's
sorry.
Right, yeah,
100 grand.
Is there some election interference in this candy bowl?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, did I eat a Milky Way and think? Oh no.
Yeah.
Well,
I know, Glenn.
Forget me.
It's been a year, Glenn. It's okay. It really
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, now I have to reevaluate my whole stance. I thought I had put that to bed.
Yes, as we've been told, like, so Overwatch just said it, and Frank's reminding us it was 100, which that's just how could that be a thing? How could that even win anything? But anyway, I digress. We have been fortunate enough, though, to have Trinity from The Matrix join us as well today. Trinity,
What do you
how
mean?
goes it?
This is just how I dress.
As a child, what was your favorite Halloween a treat? It doesn't have to be candy. It was treat. That's why I specifically said treat in case it wasn't candy for some folks.
My favorite treat, which now I know you may have some opposition to, is candy corn. Was as a child and
Wow.
is as an adult. But
Wha-
here's my backstory. Here's my tragic backstory. So I
Your
have a
origin
peanut
story,
allergy.
candy corn origin story.
My villain origin story. Yeah, so I had a really severe peanut allergy as a kid. Obviously, I still do, but it's like mellowed. But my parents said I was gonna die every Halloween because it's just like unsanctioned candy distribution.
Wow.
So I wasn't really allowed to have any sort of chocolate products because they were worried about cross contamination and stuff like that. But candy corn, there's nothing real in candy corn, so there's nothing I can be allergic to there. So I had a lot of it, and maybe it's Stockholm syndrome, but now I love it.
Wow.
I think candy corn gets a bad rap. I will eat it, like one serving once a year, but I think it's a bad rap.
Well, so what is a serving of candy corn?
A single
Get tired of it.
corn.
You get one interaction a year, so make the most of it.
Wow.
I eat it year round. I don't know about you all.
How do you get it? Is it
How do you
just
ask?
left
Say,
over?
like, do you have like a hidden supply stash?
Can't
of it or
reveal my
something?
dealer.
Man. Overwatch. What was your fave as a kid and now? Milk Duds and Milk Duds. Milk Duds forever. Okay.
Do
Consistency
you guys
is
ever
great.
eat Whoppers? That was my that was my runner-up as a kid. Was Whoppers? No. Really?
No.
Cool. Good job.
I do like Whoppers.
Okay.
So as a kid, Reese's peanut butter cups were my favorite treat. And then after various things, peanuts no longer sit well. So if I don't go trick or treating anymore. Sorry, I'm lame. We don't have the kids don't go out. We don't have kids, so I don't do it. But if I were to receive a treat on Halloween, a dark chocolate Kit Kat would be my fave treat right now.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like trick or treating in your area is more like the actual Bigfoot or something.
I mean, we do live in the state that Stephen King was brought up in, and there is a reason
Yeah.
why his books and things are where they are. So, yeah, it's not great. And all of my setup is gone because we had a power and internet outage right before we were supposed to go live. So let me get the screen
Let's feed the
shared.
conspiracy. Bob was about to come on, and right as we hit go, Bob disappears.
So if people, I mean, you're here. If you are here,
Circles.
you know that we have a podcast. So like and subscribe all the things. You can go to stormwatch.ing or graynoise.io/stormwatch. And you'll make Overwatch's day if you actually do submit your email address and subscribe. So please do that because Overwatch deserves a happy day. She does lots of great stuff. Nothing goes smoothly here without her. And she's remote today, and this is even going great today too. So just kudos for that. And we're gonna jump right in. I should have made a cake or something. I don't really like cake, but CVE turned 25 this month.
Congrats.
I'm actually kind of amazed at that. It got sort of snuck up on me for some reason. I don't know why.
Party like it's 1999.
I mean, sure. So just to set up the stage for this brief discussion on it. It evolved from a very tiny US centric initiative, and it's become the global standard for vulnerability identification, for better or for worse, maybe. There are over, for better or for worse, 400 CVE numbering authorities, which is CNAs, that span 40 countries. I learned all this from the report. Growth from 321 CVE records in 1999 to scads and scads and scads more. With I think we're 28 to plus thousand in just this year alone, which is kind of crazy. And they went to this federated model, which means like the program scaled. Now, whether managing CVEs, understanding CVEs, relying on CVEs has scaled with the program, that's maybe we can have a little bit of a conversation about that. So folks might not, well, so I think everyone that might know this unless you're really new to it, but MITRE was the one that kind of began this whole thing. And they basically just went from there, and now like they have authorized data publishers in 2024. So this whole federation and just networking has just like made everything kind of blow up. We've gone from like horrible old formats to now like a rich JSON format that has a regular evolution with published schemas every year, which is great. There's automation systems behind all these things, so it's easy to get CVEs assigned and reserved and all those things. And they've evolved some of the underlying stats, like so CVSS has also like evolved with the CVE program. And it hasn't been like fun the whole time. Like the open source community, there are some folks there that aren't fans of how they do that, and how they do their work, and how the CVs get assigned and work with there. But they have worked to make major um, uh, partnerships with like the Apache Foundation and a bunch of other ones as well too. And we're now in a whole new world where like there's AI related vulnerabilities and AI finding vulnerabilities. There's cloud native and SaaS vulnerabilities, and how do those fit in the program, and how are we going to deal with those? And they're now actually in specific sectors too. So they're, you can like drill down into like automotive, IoT, healthcare, et cetera. It's actually a pretty big thing. And so I just wanted to get your all's thoughts on CVE, what the current state of it is. What are your impressions? Did you read through the report? Did you love the font and design choices of the report?
I mean, it's I feel bad saying this. CV the visuals of the report really, you had to kind of process that first before you could actually take in its content. It was a little disturbing. But it's hard to imagine what we would be if we didn't have the CVE program. Like, yeah, it has a lot of shortcomings. But it has definitely created the primary key for tracking vulns, making sure that we're all talking about the same thing, making sure that we're trying to patch the same thing. So I'd like to think that if they didn't do it, like it would have happened by now, anyways. But 25 years, it is kind of surprising that it's been going that long. I was going to ask about you mentioned the number of CNAs and how they federated basically and have more. Would you say 400 or so orgs that can assign a
Yep.
CVE, which is what the CNA certificate. Oh
Program,
gosh,
just CNA program.
yeah. Anyway, they can assign the CVE, and in our research, especially some stuff that you were helping with Bob earlier in the year, like you kind of found where some of that federation is kind of breaking some things or causing some issues with data quality. I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that.
Well, I mean, I get why the CNA program exists, and I was kind of fine with it before it was vendor centric. Like so, as an example, like someone like a Palo Alto being able to be a CNA for their stuff, or Microsoft being able to be a CNA for their stuff. That's kind of problematic. If it was a vendor, I mean, we'll go back to even our previous org, like Rapid7. If Rapid7 as this place that has a lot of software to help track and remediate vulnerabilities. That seemed kind of and plus researchers that do actual legit vulnerability research, or even VulnCheck as another example, one of our cool
Hmm.
partners now. Like they do a fantastic job identifying vulnerabilities, and they're a great CNA. They've helped us out. We're going to talk about that later this week on the blog, and I think that's fine. I think letting the foxes run the hen house with the CNAs has been problematic. And sure, we may not drill into the data set we saw before, but there's been a lot of instances where Microsoft, especially, doesn't do a great job ethically with how they deal with CNAs and reporting vulnerabilities. We are aware of other vendors, which I won't say names of right
Hmm.
now,
Hmm.
who seem to have not published uh, uh, an actual CVE for an actual vulnerability, and they get to treat what they think of as vulnerabilities in interesting ways as well too. So I actually think I think the CV program is kind of breaking it to a degree as a result of that. And I think we're going to see it break even more as they keep adding more CNAs at the pace that they're adding them at.
And then considering the delays from NVD, to get those assigned, like there's a lot of toothpicks and duct tape on the current situation, but none of that is meant to detract from like its impact on the industry, and it's certainly been a very, very fundamental part of what we do.
So Trinity, what do you think about the CVE program? I'm not going to stop that because you are like you are better than the
How do you know?
actual movie Trinity.
How do you know it's Trinity? It might be Palo Alto's hired actor.
Insider threat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like obviously I think everybody here knows that we would be in such a worse place without it. Imagine just having to find like that one specific Fortinet RCE and then having to wade through a bunch of different filters.
The
for it.
Avanti Bone.
The Avanti Bone.
That one.
Oh, narrows it
Ivante,
down zero.
Ivante on this pod, it's Ivante. We know
Right.
that.
I kind of agree that it is starting to reach its like I don't think it has kept up quickly enough with how the way that we understand vulnerabilities has evolved. And I almost think well, it sometimes hogs all the attention to the point where it's like Venn diagram, people are like, let's focus on CVEs, but then they kind of forget what's outside of that, I think, and the things that can't be captured as one.
You mean like
Like-
misconfigs or what?
Misconfigs. And like the things, again, to your point, the things that aren't reported, the things that, like, I think it has increased the barrier to entry for a lot of things becoming, it's like very rigid. But then to that, I want to pose the question, which is the ideal state that everything becomes a CVE? And I know we've talked on this pod a lot about like the NVD and the struggles it's facing, and also kind of this influx of garbage CVEs, like the Linux kernel things, or not garbage, just like a lot of things that maybe didn't need to be in the catalog. And I almost think that's sort of like going to happen when you create something that is accessible to a lot of people.
Well, it's and just to extend the accessible to other people, there is a lot of evidence right now. I follow the Curl project pretty closely just because of the nature of what we do at Gray Noise, and they receive an inordinate number of what are very, very apparently AI crafted vulnerabilities found that they triage and they're legit not vulnerabilities. So and that's a before it even gets to the CVE level. And I think that's an important thing to note here. Like CVEs have to get to become a CVE, and that's usually reporting vulnerabilities to the vendor, then working with some CNA to do the actual reporting. And there's now a lot of impetus to find vulns so you can get a name for yourself in cybersecurity, and people are just going to use these tools to do that at a scale that they weren't able to do it before. So yeah, is CVE going to crumble under the weight of CVE moving forward because of folks doing that and scrambling to it, and the fact that it is easier than ever to be able to submit a CVE or have a CVE created?
I think that's okay. Hot take. I think it's okay for people to use it in a way that they want to, and that sometimes means like lower quality things, because you'll always, I think everybody can intuitively, who works in the field can intuitively tell what is worth responding to.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to have to be some adjustments, whether it's segmenting it further based on I mean, I know they do some, but like even at the root of CVE, like IoT, AI, um, uh, whatever, automotive, like you said. But I do think that we've outgrown its current implementation. And they kind of talk about this a little bit in the report or slide or the PDF of their birthday report, but kind of the challenges ahead and plans to adapt. So I think it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. But then also, since this is such a legacy system, it's unintentionally accrued, basically accrued a lot of tech debt. So there's a lot of things that are dependent on CVE dash year dash number. And so anything they do, any change they make, will have to take 5 or plus years because of all the dependencies on that. So I wonder how that goes. Is it we keep this as it is and it's just a giant bucket, and then we create an additional one that gets a little bit more specific, maybe some metadata on them that's more granular, or do they start looking at it like, okay, let's segment this up a little bit more from the root. So I don't know the right answer to that. I just know that it's implemented so much that it would be a slow ship to turn.
Yeah. The one thing that I was interacting with Todd, I don't think he's on in the chat today, but he was talking about
Can't
CVE
be a
earlier.
good sign.
Oh yeah, that's true. Maybe we're gonna have like 20 Kev today. But anyway,
Yeah.
the one thing that I do limit maybe more than anything else about CVE is that the rot in the links that are reference links or vendor links or mailing list links or any of those things, the link rot that exists in there is kind of frightening because those are things you really do like that's supposed to they're there for a reason. They aren't just decorations. They provide a lot of evidence for the CVE itself, and you can get lots more info about that on there. And Todd was, I guess pleading. I mean, Todd doesn't run CVE. He's in CISA, but some organization, maybe we could do this. I don't know, Glenn, as a research project with the labs team, but making sure that we archive like the minute CVEs and references and get added and updated and anything immediately archived so that and that archive link becomes the link inside the
Yeah.
CVE or along with those links inside there, just so that there is digital preservation of those things. Because if you go back a long ways, link rot's pretty bad. Todd did a whole project on that, I think 2
You
years
don't
ago.
even have to go back a long ways. Like there was something I was looking up. I think it was last week or maybe yesterday, even though today's only Tuesday. And came across it was a 2023 vuln, but the references were gone. Like, the pages changed. And then like we try to put a lot of references like manually get them archived if they're not already, and use those with web archive. But they had a rough go here lately as well. So
Yeah, this is
like
true too.
thinking about that, like that's also another, we need a congressional library for CVE accessories.
The one last thing that I'll toss out, and then you guys have anything else, we can, if you don't, we can move on. But I know CVE is just a source of record for vulnerabilities. Like it is not a tool in and of itself. It just provides information for others to go use. But one of the reasons it exists is so that maybe we can have awareness of what vulnerabilities are out there and maybe not continue that just tread of doing the same thing. And the fact that one of the oldest vulnerabilities is still SQL injection, and we still see, I mean, it shows up in security appliances today. Like just recently, there've been a bunch more, like just in, and I'm picking on security vendors because we're going to pick on them later. Um, but that's we have in our own industry, we haven't even learned from CVE to not repeat the same mistakes that everybody else is making for the past 25 years. So, is the program really doing any meta good, or is the fact that it is just a source of record that you can use as a reference the only thing it should be, and we shouldn't ascribe any other powers to it than that.
I think the latter. I think they're just the documentary source of these things. It provides data to put pressure on those vendors
Mm.
or to drive that change or to change your purchasing habits, which you know I advise everyone to do when they're evaluating a tool. Um, but but I don't. That feels out of scope, I guess, is my answer for as far as like pushing on the change. They should just make the need for change more visible, because obviously, just even with that narrow of a scope, it's still um, pretty noisy and pretty cluttered, to be honest.
Have low expectations and they will be met.
Wow, I really hope Steve isn't listening to this. Steve Christie he's not listening to this. That would be terrible if he heard that. Wow. All right, we're going to move off of this now that we're devolving into meanness. We're going to switch over to something that we should deservedly be mean about, which is the London Center reporting that it was an utter poop show inside the transport for London cyber attack. And when this thing popped up the other day, I just found it to be a pretty glorious read. And let me set the stage for this because Himoji, you've already like in the pre-show stuff, you honed in on a couple of things that I had found like, huh, that was interesting. So I can't wait to hear you talk to some of that. So for folks that aren't in London or don't read the cyber news or weren't aware of this or didn't experience it yourself, because like if you were over there, you did and you do use the transport over there, you were impacted by this and probably still are. They experienced a major cyber attack beginning on September 1st of this year. It caused widespread disruption for all their systems, but the transport systems still worked. It's just everything that coordinates them and does billing and all that kind of stuff really didn't do that. It's been costing them millions of pounds. Why did they not go back on the euro or stay on the euro? I have no idea. But anyway, millions of pounds in potential costs from system recovery and lost revenue. Hundreds of thousands of folks in London have been and continue to be overcharged for travel. And small businesses that support and do work with the Transport for London and the all the maintenance and things like that, they've been delayed with their invoice payments. They have Oyster cards, basically a Zip Oyster card, like that's the transfer. That's the how you get on to things with fares. They had to take that offline. One of their booking systems was disabled. All of the displays for live tube times were all interrupted, and they had no Wi-Fi or IT systems anywhere that there was anything associated with the being able to move around on the public transport there. And what's worse is that it wasn't just one cyber attack. There were another cyber attack attempts that followed that one. And the Greater London Authority systems, because they were connected to TfL, they were also impacted as well. And there's just a lot of things that were pretty bad about it. There was a 17-year-old male that was arrested as a result of it. There hasn't been a lot of follow up on that one, so I got no more than any of you might have, unless you might know more about it individually that anyone hasn't reported anywhere. They believe that there's going to be recovery efforts all the way into 2025, and I know we're close to 2025, but that's months away when things are going to be whole again, and they're going to be doing this restoration in phases. The one thing that I wanted to point out, beyond some of the things that you all are going to talk about, is the disabled community and youth and low income residents and just users of the system. They got special discounts to use the transport around London, and they've all been overcharged. Because they have no ability to like to use the computer systems to get everything right. A lot of people have been overcharged, and it looks like they're never going to be able to get refunds from that. So it's actually having a disproportional impact on those marginalized communities there as well. And the bank details of 5,000 Oyster card users were compromised as part of this. And basically, it's just been really, really, really bad for folks over there completely. So I was wondering, like, as you guys were digging into the story, what were some of the good or bad things that you had to say about this whole incident?
Just another incident where it was worse enough without the response by the people in charge, making it so much worse. Um, the fact that they kind of obscured, I think, if I remember reading correctly, they originally said no customer data was leaked. They didn't even say that they were investigating it, and then later had to go back and say, "Oh, actually, your bank details um were released." And I'm glad that you highlighted that it mostly impacts the most financially stretched people, the people who depend the most on public transit, which is a huge part of London, like the lifeblood of London. Um, and I just don't understand why they're not being like, why rides aren't free. Like, how is this okay that they are just being expected to pay normal fares and bear the brunt of the impact, and then just like no refunds? They're just not even trying. And this is a crazy quote I want to read, because it made me really mad. As Trinity would say. So this is what the TfL commissioner said. Um, the vast majority of Londoners would not know this attack has happened. Because it's been so well managed, people didn't understand the scale and impact. So that to me feels like not just inaccurate information, but also bragging that you weren't transparent about the impact of your attack, and that's why it's, I don't know.
So wait, you're saying you're surprised that elite politicians in a Western government are
Yeah,
out of
right.
touch with the actual normal people that live in those countries?
I am not desensitized to that yet, unfortunately.
It fits the bill of just say it and it'll be true. Yeah, I fully agree with him. Like this story is how I learned that there was special programs for teenagers and I don't want to say elderly because I don't think 60 is elderly, but um, it says 60.
I certainly don't think 60 is elderly. That's for sure.
But basically, teenagers and 60-year plus, I guess, got free travel, which is cool. And so, yeah, great. I'm basically echoing what him just said. But yeah, great that the trains kept running. But just switch to free then if you can't manage it. Like this is not the customer's um, brunt to bear or whatever. You I don't know. Like it's just mind-boggling that aspect. And maybe there's a technical limitation. I don't know what that would be, but it's just really uncool to treat it the way it is, and then also tell the people that probably need it the most. Yeah, sorry about that, but you can pay double or whatever the bill is.
I think the thing that really shocked me the most about reading just how terrible this response has been is the UK has they're at I wanted to say that, like, they're almost as good. They're as good as CISA, if not better, the NCSE
Oh yeah.
in the UK. They have one of the strongest, one of the smartest agencies that understand cyber as well as anybody in CISA does, and they're capable people, and they would have been able to help them with or the response just dealing with this, and, like, they can't just
Mhm.
step into places and do things you like, it's just like your sister's not gonna tell you what to do. But, like, why not rely on those very smart, very capable people to help you understand the scope of the impact and also help create a proper response program and proper external communications? That I don't understand because I've met those folks. The NCAC folks are amazing, they're great. Why not rely on this amazing resource that the government has set up and has had for a number of years now? I just don't understand it.
In the US, like we can I know like some major cities, New York and Chicago and stuff, like they have major subways or trains. So it's a little easier to imagine like how that would affect here. But for the most of US, like we don't. And so it's easy to kind of not it's easy to underappreciate when we talk about critical infrastructure, like this is critical infrastructure in those major cities in America and of course like all through Europe. So uh just imagining like there was I was in London last summer or 2 summers ago, and one day that I was there, the two workers were on strike. Luckily just for one day. Um and that was a pretty miserable day because obviously, like, you couldn't, and it's so great. Like, they have it down. Everyone knows this. It's such a joy to use, a pleasure to use. But that one day, it was a very stark reminder of like critical, like to the economy. And so, to your point, Bob, as far as like reaching out for assistance or government assistance, whatever, like, yeah, this is not just a private organization running a commuter train or something like this. Like, this would take down the economy of that city for a very long time if it were completely disruptive. So, um, and there'll be like waterfall effects of this too, where well, if people are spending more money on the cards to go to the doctor or the transit to go to the doctor, then maybe they can't afford the medicine that they get from the doctor and you know things like that. So um, yeah, it's we can put this in two buckets. One is the IT technical cyber response, which is not going great, but also just the like not appreciating your customers and being customer centric and just telling those affected like sorry about that, but here is a card to pay more for.
It's interesting to me to compare this to the CrowdStrike BSOD incident because I feel like both are very similar. Transportation is critical infrastructure, like you were saying. But I think this one has honestly been, well, obviously we're across the pond, so we don't hear everything, but I feel like the response to this has been so muted because of the people it affects. Like here, we saw kind of this huge outcropping of lawsuits against airlines after the BSAT incident. I don't know that the people who are most impacted by public transportation failures have the resources to do that. So, like, what are they left to do?
That's a great point. Well, and the other was global, so that's part of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great point, right? Like the people that are actually screwed by this, they're not going to. Well, we can't pursue other actions because we spent all of our money on fares.
So the other two things that I wanted to maybe tee up, and we don't need to discuss it for very long, but this is under the little Suzie situation, right?
I
The
knew you were going to
this
go there.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
It's always Suzie.
it is always little Susie, and like she's still trying to she's still homeless because
She's
of
still
that.
waiting on her home.
But for here and now she can't even get to her home if she had one because she
It's
can't
been about a
afford.
year since that story, hasn't it? Wasn't it about this time last year that the
I think I
mortgage
think
thing went down?
I think it was, but for folks that aren't aware, like this is
Spooky
because
season.
it was because a centralized component of lending systems went down. I made the assertion that like because they pulled the plug to try to stop this, meaning that they literally caused chaos for days and maybe longer inside the being able to do financial transactions to purchase houses or lease houses or whatever. That like that decision to do that, like the rest of my co-hosts were they're fine with it. They thought it was great that they pulled the plug and Susie had no home, but that impacted. Like I just tried to create a scenario where like, this was impacted because the duty of care was not realized by the folks maintaining the systems. The cyber attack happened, and it could have made it so that little Susie wasn't able to have a home and she might be homeless. And in this particular case here, the lack of duty of care, both just because the hack happened. I know hacks happen, but like this one probably didn't have to happen, just like most of them don't have to happen. And now it impacted like the folks that can least afford it to be able to do that, and they can't get around. And I know I don't really touch. So the one thing I wanted to throw there is, do we and our peers that are in organizations that have real jobs, as cyber professionals, is there some responsibility to try to emphasize the duty of care more versus the ticking down the checklist of compliance things that you have to cover? Or are we just tech people and we do this and we're just security people and we're going to do the security thing, whatever? Would it help if we began to try to explain the potential downstream impacts in this kind of way so that maybe people take their jobs of securing things more seriously, and management, who ultimately is responsible for not having good security, does proper investments in security inside an organization?
I have two thoughts. One is, how does this make you feel about a bigger cyber attack? So let's forget who this affects. Let's just say, like, how does this make you feel against about their ability to respond to a quote real attack that would stop the trains, right? Like that's not helpful, or that's not confidence building. Um, and then on duty of care. So I've said it. I still strongly believe my stance of, until the known penalty for if this thing happens is not regulated enough and documented enough and able to say like the thing happening is going to cost us more than just responding to it when and if it happens, then nothing's going to change. So I think the duty of care question goes back into that, where right now everything is so compliance driven and not uh, common sense driven or customer driven or whatever, that it's just not going to matter when until the cost of not doing something costs more than doing it.
Any thoughts on whether taking the softer approach, Hemija, could we do these tear jerker things so that people understand the impacts and they might take their jobs more seriously, and management might do something differently to be able to enable this?
No, I believe in negative reinforcement.
So punitive like fines, etc.
I think so. Which
Negative
sucks.
reinforcement, but proactive regulation.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
that's a better word for it. Because yeah, to your point, you have to make it make business sense, which sucks, and I acknowledge that. But yeah, I would be This is also an interesting example of like how a public authority handles it versus maybe like a private corporation. And again, why I'm so confused as to why the NCSC was not, or maybe they were and we don't know, but yeah, you have to definitely make it more expensive to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's almost like the local London government pulled on Ohio on this one. But that's my new thing, by the way. Sorry, I'm just pulling it out. And I guess the other thing I just wanted to toss out, and maybe we don't need to discuss it at all, but hey, cyber folk that are working for organizations, and when you decide that you're going to hook up two systems to each other through some kind of gateway, whether it's over the internet or it's a direct connection or whatever, the fact that the Greater London Authority systems were also impacted by this because of that third party connection, probably VPN to VPN or whatever it is. It may have been like the details aren't there, but you try not to have yourself be impacted by something that one of your third parties is having an impact is being impacted by, especially if this was a direct impact because they got to the network in that layer too. So just seeing that as part of the whole thing is like, "Jeez, this like sort of everything was done completely wrong in this situation."
I'm just kind of realizing, or not realizing, but thinking about the trend of like when the pharmaceutical change healthcare, whatever, the hack that took out the pharmacy benefits portal, like the reaction is like, okay, well, people can just pay out of pocket for their prescriptions until we figure it out, right? And that there's still information about that coming out.
Yeah.
Um, this is the similar where it's like, I don't know, but you can pay more until we figure it out. And maybe that's a starting point for, if it's your payment system that's FUBAR, maybe you have to default like open, like default free, default whatever for people to go on with their lives until you can recover. And I bet we would see a lot faster resolutions and a lot faster um, investments and proactive measures being taken.
I agree. Like in this case, there wasn't even a credit monitoring consolation prize.
An Oyster card monitoring service.
That's what the
Wow.
people need.
I need to look up why it's called Oyster card. I saw that, and I think we have different words for
I
Oyster.
I think this next one is brief, and it's good news because somebody on the team here wanted to talk about good news today. So, Glenn, since you wanted to talk about good news, can you maybe share with this great, awesome, it's going to change the nature of cyber forever
Well,
news?
settle down, settle down. No, so it is good news. It's not breaking it's not breaking a ceiling or anything, but it's just thinking back to the days of port scanning as a crime, which I think Census would appreciate that pun or that joke. To now seeing, the White House putting out not a decree, but a directive that's you know, embracing working with researchers, embracing the TLP protocol that we already use for pretty much everything, but making it more real and accepted. But basically, like it's positive to see the advances of how cybersecurity researchers are doing good for everyone that is on the internet, which is everyone pretty much. And I feel this is a weird thing to say. I feel like it legitimatizes it a bit more. Not that it wasn't already legitimate in every way, but it sets a precedent when dealing with the Ohio's, right? Or the Missouris or whatever, weird, crazy edge cases of HTML code means you're hacking something situation. So it just puts a little bit more proactive credit on the researcher side so that hopefully whenever someone tries to do something or an organization or a a wild city manager, whatever, tries to do something that's completely out of line, it gives them the researchers already have a little bit of credit to stand on to start that conversation. Like if the White House is going to accept this thing, then like clearly you can, Governor. So I think it's a positive step, and it's been very cool to see in the last 5 or whatever years, just the strides. And I'm assuming CISA had something to do with this, right? Like CISA has been doing a lot of awareness and outreach. So it's just nice to see these things like becoming more standard and accepted at the very top levels of our government, at least.
Yeah, I think this is mostly a symbolic gesture, but one that was really needed amidst all of the recent
Right.
things, Ohio included. Yeah. But there was a quote in the article that made me laugh a little bit. It was like, long gone are the days when white hat hackers are mistrusted.
Well, I don't know about that, but okay.
I don't know about that. A for
All
effort.
right. That's all the good news I can take. Sorry. I'm going to introduce our next segment in the way that I do.
We're gonna border secure, cause the hack is on.
And
I'm a firewall.
There you go.
so I'm going to turn this over to Himija. Himija, tell me where to scroll. Tell me when to scroll. You did an amazing rapid response document for Census and talking about the 0-day and Fortinet FortiManager that has been seeing active exploitation. Take it away.
I actually love that song. I know I shouldn't encourage it, but it's so catchy. What's not catchy is another zero net. Oh my goodness, another 0-day in Fortinet in the news. So this happened last week. FortiManager is like an admin console for FortiGate devices. Take a shot of water every time I say 40, like as a word starting with 40. And basically, it is a it's an actively exploited vuln that could lead a remote unauthenticated actor to achieve RCE role credits. So what's interesting about this one, and Mandiant released a really good blog post about this, but basically it has been seeing active exploitation since like June of this year by a new threat group, believed to be a new threat group. And they've been observed using it to basically do network recon on a bunch of basically to see like how FortiGate devices are configured, grab passwords, things like that. But as of right now, there has been no kind of like post exploitation activity observed beyond this. So I'm pretty curious to see what becomes of it and what we learn about what's going on, what their aims are. But as of right now, it's in Kev. Patches are available for everything. The thing about FortiManager is in my opinion, it really should not be exposed on the internet. Like the configuration to expose it to the internet is not a default one. But it's like it is a valid configuration, quote unquote, but it's a less common one. And you can see that we're actually seeing it, exposed mostly in the US and Europe. I would recommend that if you do have it exposed, to just whitelist the IPs that you need, because like with any sort of network device admin page, if it's sitting out, that really just unnecessarily broadens your attack surface. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of what the aims of this new group. I think they're like UNC 5820 is, of course, we love threat actor names. Is the tag. And if you have it exposed to the internet, I would immediately check for indicators of compromise. There are some pretty obvious ones that you should be able to see.
Can I toss out a hot take that I think I'm just going to do from now on? And it's really bad. This is a terrible hot take. So if for people that can't see the screen, we were showing the map of what the XY coordinates in theory of where all these things are. I don't trust the IP geolocation, but whatever. The every single one of these orange dots deserves whatever they get. If you're exposing your admin panel for the device that's securing your infrastructure from the internet, you kind of deserve everything that's coming your way. Or am I wrong about that?
I disagree because I still have faith in humanity. But yeah, I was kind of surprised to see so many. I should quote numbers because I'm a researcher. Ha. So we saw like over 4,000 of these exposed. I checked again this morning and we've only seen like 15 of them go offline. So either these are, I mean, again, these are all exposures, not necessarily all are vulnerable, but this did affect quite a large range of versions. And I'm surprised to see this many exposed like this because, to my understanding, it's not the default configuration. It's like you have to intentionally configure them to be exposed.
I'm kind of on Bob's side at this point in the year 2024 of you, you don't put it on the internet. Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't even know how to. Everything should be like at least home device. Thank goodness that most home devices are by default at least natted, and so it's just a little extra step. But don't expose these things ever. Like so many things. We were talking about misconfigs earlier, right? Like, is an internal tool on an external network considered a misconfig? Should that have a ID of vulnerability assigned to it? Should that be taken into account for cyber insurance, since that's a business driver, like that drives costs? Like, how do we again move that field goal line to get businesses to make decisions that are actually helpful?
Yeah, and to add a little bit of why I'm being really mean, it's my statement is bad. Like I think in my heart of hearts, I probably don't really mean it, but it just feels like, you know what? Fine, go let yourself be hacked because whatever. So I where I live in southern Maine, getting decent internet that is consistent to be able to do work from home stuff is difficult. And there's actually an upgrade happening at my house today to have faster bandwidth. But I have a Cisco router. It's a small business Cisco router that sits here because that's what Comcast uses here, and I have full control over it. And the default is secure. There is nothing exposed to the internet at all, no management, no whatever. And I can go into those settings and I can say there's three things I have to tick to be able to do that. So first of all, that's work. And then every single time I click something, it's like this isn't the message, but it might as well be, "You're being an idiot, don't do this. You're being an idiot, don't do this. You're being an idiot, don't do," like, they make it really hard for you to make a bad decision. And I have to believe that because the Fortinet folks, they do make powerful, decent kit, that that must be something in there. I haven't used their interface in a long time, but they must make it very difficult to do this too, or have lots of warnings or something like that when you actually do that. So they made a deliberate effort to try to be insecure, and the mind boggles with that. So don't do that, and and listen to Census and go search for your stuff in Census, use their ASM. Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, we should change it to where to set up a insecure, like if you were setting up a vendor product to be in an insecure way, that you have to like DocuSign a thing that releases all, like somehow make legal involved. I don't know, whatever that does, but make your corporate legal get involved, and then it'll get shut down. Take the power away from the people with the keyboard.
I thought I would get more pushback in the comments for such a hot take, but I guess not. So I guess everybody agrees with me. That's really great. Um, Vulncheck has done some updates to their CLI tool, and it's a handy CLI tool. And I use their APIs on a regular basis, so they've also updated their SDKs. I just hit it directly. I don't use their SDKs, but the Go one is actually really nice. I haven't used IkiPython if I can avoid it, so I wouldn't use that one anyway. So go definitely check out the updates to those because they do great stuff. They have a lot of really great information. As we just talked about the CVE program, they are one of the best sources for that CVE database information right now. And the community, the community tier is free, so you can get access to the API and get all the data. They've just done a phenomenal job. So definitely go do all the things.
Shout out to Kimber.
Yeah, Kimber's awesome.
Kimber.
They're all awesome though over there. They do great stuff.
But mostly Kimber.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Sorry, guys. So before we close early again, look at that, twice in a row. It's almost like we know what we're doing now. Any final parting words for the folks out there? Any Halloween advice for the folks out there?
Check your candy for razor blades.
Is that still a thing?
No, that's the joke. I did. Speaking of memes from the start of the show, I did see a funny one where it was like, "I got this candy bar. Check it." I was checking it, and then it zooms out, and it's just there's Allen wrenches like shoved all through it. Like, oh my god, there's Allen wrenches in my candy. So
That's amazing.
yeah, I thought so. I'd love a
PSA to
candy bar with Allen
floss.
wrenches. They're easy to lose.
Oh, be sure to floss. That's good. Yeah, like don't let the dentist get a heyday from the candy and the tricks and the treats.
Do you guys think that The miniature candy doesn't taste as good as the full size. I think they
Like the
always
fun
taste
size
stale.
candy?
Yeah, I think the fun size always tastes.
There's nothing fun about that size. How is that the fun size? It's tiny. It's like an eighth of the normal size of things. How
Now
is that
Bob
even
shows
fun?
up.
How is that even fun?
Bob, I think you need a Snickers.
Yeah. You're
A
not
fun
you when
size
you're hungry.
Snickers.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. I don't understand this. All right. Well, that is all for this week's Gray Noise Stormwatch. Remember, whether you're managing CVEs for 25 years or managing London for transports for 25 minutes, it's always better to fortify your security before you need to. Keep your vulnerabilities in check. And we'll catch you on the next episode at stormwatch.ing. We're always monitoring the forecast. Take care, everybody.